if need be. And obviously you can ask and answer questions and stuff as we go through. All right. Now, also big thank you to those of you who have prompted parents to sign up for the PTLCs. Obviously, only if they need to come and see me. They don't necessarily have to, but they might want to. All right. So I will be seeing some parents of yours and you, presumably, on Wednesday, and that will be good. Good to do that. All right. Now, yes, was there anything else I needed to say? I don't think so. All right. So we're going to press on. Oh, I've got some things coming in the pipeline to arrive soon. Right, so in the classroom, I believe I have posted the link to Nearpod. Please let me know if it hasn't arrived. I think it's there. Yes, there it is. I've called it Nearpod 1 because I think we'll manage to get through to the next Nearpod today. Right, X3TES. X3TES. If you could jump into that Nearpod, that would be fantastic. Code is up here to the left. We've got, I think, 19 possibly already there. All right, and to join, that's brilliant, because here's what we're looking at thus far. We're looking at this idea of, let's go back a bit, a maximum price, all right? Also called a price ceiling, because it's the limit to the price. It is a legal maximum. The price cannot go, right, above that price, because it's a ceiling, all right? So maximum price or price ceiling, it depends on which textbook you read or which news article you read. It could be called either one of those. So terminologically, if you have both of those in your glossary so that you know that they mean the same thing, right? It is always set underneath the equilibrium price, because the point of it is that the government is recognizing that the equilibrium price is possibly too high, too expensive for maybe everyday people to access. So it's a question about increasing availability. Can everybody get this product? No, they can't because it's too expensive. Maybe it's a necessity. Maybe it's bread or rice or some sort of basic staple good that the consumers need, they have to have. So the government will potentially put that ceiling price in place to prevent the price from getting too high and therefore unaffordable for everybody. So there's also questions then about equity and equality with regards to this. So that's one of the themes that we talk about, right? That we are trying and it's a market, so it follows the market model, right? The free market. This is now the government intervening in the free market. So it's a little bit more like a command-based system. Right now, as we said the other day during the war, because there was even more scarcity, right, than normal, there were centralized pricing strategies, right, for goods like basic goods, for the necessities. So they would have that. The big side effect from our maximum price, here's the diagram, here it is. The big side effect from having this maximum price is that it causes a big, as you see here, a big shortage to occur, right? This price goes in place. So the price was there, the equilibrium price. It's now down to here. We tend to label it P max, right? On that axis, unfortunate for max. We follow it along. We tend to do it as a solid line because it's a legal requirement. And then you get to this side, and we do tend to write price ceiling or price maximum or maximum price, right, on that side as well, just from a labeling point of view, just so that we're all right with that. Now we follow the line along, we hit the supply curve first, we drop the line down. That's the quantity supplied, the new quantity supplied, because at this price, this is what the producers are willing to supply. They were prepared to supply this quantity, they're now prepared to supply this, so there's been a decrease in quantity supplied. But as we know, because the price has decreased, there's now an increase, according to the law of demand, an increase in quantity demanded. So that's gone from Q2 to Q3. So there's a gap here between Q3 and Q1 that is a shortage. All of these people want this resource, this good, whatever it is, in this case, rice. They cannot get it. So remember, the point of this is that the government is trying to help people get access to this resource. But, surprise, the government is intervening in the market, and oh no, they're actually hurting the people more than they're helping them. Hold on, I've got a sound effect. Where's my sound effect board?
Yeah,
Over here.
Mr. David, could you please?
Sorry, one more time.
Could you please share your screen?
Oh, am I not sharing?
No.
I apologize. Trap for young players. Check it out. All right, there we go. Sharing now. Ta-da! There it is. All right, do we see the screen?
Yes, we do.
Excellent. Brilliant. All right, so as said, equilibrium quantity here. There's the max price there. Equilibrium quantity. As we go up, there's the supply curve. Down here, that's the new quantity supplied. That's all they're prepared to supply because that's the price they're going to get. Over here is the quantity demanded, right? Because the prices decrease, so increased quantity demand. That gap between Q3 and Q1, that gap there is the shortage. You can actually do it. You can actually calculate the amount that they are short in the market. And in this case, the example used is rice, which is, as we know, a necessity for a lot of people in a lot of parts of the world. It is a basic or staple good. Okay? So therefore, what we say is this market is actually, the government intervention is actually causing problems, right? It's causing the market to misallocate resources. The market wants to be here, right? Because that was where our consumer surplus, there it is, was maximized, and our producer surplus was maximized. By pushing the price to here, or constraining the prices to here, you've potentially gained consumer surplus, but you've lost a whole lot of producer surplus. Okay, this bit. That's a, what is it, a rectangle and a triangle. And you've also lost up here an amount of consumer surplus. So this triangle here, there it is called the dead weight loss, or if you like, a loss of welfare to society. Society is worse off because of this situation. The market wants to go to an equilibrium, but the government is refusing to allow it to get there. So instead, if we were to imagine that this arrow here, this triangle, is pointing towards the area of allocative efficiency. So what we have done is the government has created an area of allocative inefficiency, this bit, right? So 1 and 2. Now, when you're drawing these yourself, you do need to be careful with your labeling. You need to make sure you know where consumer surplus is, where producer surplus is. Now, a little bit of a high level versus standard level split, okay, with this. If you are doing calculations, if you're doing the maths, then there is a chance that you could be asked to do the actual maths, the actual calculation. So what has happened to consumer surplus, right? Do they calculate the area? What has happened to producer surplus? Calculate the area. What is the area of the dead weight loss? Calculate it. Right? What area of the dead weight loss was once consumer surplus? What area of the dead weight loss was once producer surplus? Calculate it. Right? They're all regular geometric shapes, right? Triangle, half base times height, all of those sorts of ideas, right? So it's just a matter of seeing where they are on the graph and then being able to do the calculations from that. Okay? It's just maths. It's actually not really economics. The economics is knowing where it is. The maths part is what you will need to figure out. Okay? Year 13 asking me a question about Kenya. Okay, yes, I will get to that one. Right. Ready? No. Did we illustrate it? Have you done this? No, you haven't. Right. Okay. So very quickly, see if you can illustrate a maximum price control. Where you go. Yeah. You want this water to refill or throw it? You want to play with that one? Yeah, if we can keep it. Yeah, he likes playing with them. work. Here we go. Some good work going on. All right. Really good use of color there. It's very good. What have we done here? Now, wrong something.
That's basically me. If you press the maximum price too high, that's wrong.
Okay. Okay. All right. No problem.
Yeah, the lower one is backloaded the maximum price of April.
Okay. All right. So we've illustrated the shortage. That's good. Okay. Oh, Dane, look at that. Beautiful. Very good. Outstanding. Andrew, yes, that's excellent. I like the color. Let's share that with everybody. Look at that. Look at the color and the highlighting in there. You've shown the change in consumer surplus. Well, the new consumer surplus, the new producer surplus. You've got a deadweight loss there. You haven't fully shaded in there, but that's okay. It's difficult to do when you are doing it on the graph. You haven't shown the full extent of the shortage either, there, Andrew, because that's the demand curve, so it should be down there. Good effort. Well done. Oh, Kendrick, look at that. Right, okay, so we need to, on our axis down here, you need to illustrate the shortage. Good work. Joel, yes, that's the maximum price, well done. So on here, and again, it's difficult because you're doing it on the computer, I understand, so that's where the shortage is here. All right, that's good. If you are able to illustrate the changes to the consumer and producer surplus, that would be fantastic. Good work, Max. Yes. Okay. Yeah. From a me point of view, not necessarily from an examiner, because some of them disagree with me, and we've had this conversation before. I tend to always put the shortage down here because it's so that it's on the axis, because that's where I see visually the shortage to be, because that's the quantity axis. It's good you've labeled it there. You haven't labeled it on the axis, which you're going to need to in the exam, but very good. Good. Consumer surplus, there's the gain, very good. Yeah, good. Well done. You do the diagram a few times, it will become very straightforward to you. Good work, Andrew. Yep, there's the shortage in there. Well done. I have giraffe today. Yeah, so when you do it in the exam, you will need to have labels. Be good to actually illustrate the areas. So the area of deadweight loss, which is this triangle here, the change to consumer and producer surplus, obviously the shortage along this axis here as well. Doing well. Oh, Arena, look at that. Oh, check this out. Look at this. Very good. Right, colors. Yes, you've highlighted the right areas. There's deadweight loss. The only, oh no, you've got it written here. Good, well done. Very good. All right, Kendrick, good. Process. Yeah, maybe a bit more on that one, Fatima. So this is a solid line. And if you draw it all the way across, so it doesn't stop, it just keeps going, because it doesn't matter, it just keeps going. And then it'd be good to illustrate the producer and consumer surplus, the deadweight loss, and the shortage there. Don't do it as an arrow, do it as a label. Good work, so. Okay, that's an interesting name. All right, so we're still working on that one. Yep, okay. Yeah, so in your notes, feel free to do PC, right, as a shorthand code. That's absolutely fine. When you get to the exam, yeah, I'm afraid you're going to need to write the words in full, right? Reasoning being is that PC we're going to discover could be shortened and it could be a code for something else. So we'll need to avoid that where possible. All right, we'll give you a few more minutes to have a go at this to really get it down. Looking very good, Dane. Maybe put the shortage label down here on the axis. Well, look at that, Nisa. Well done. Very good. Yep, so this bit down here, this is the new producer surplus down in here. All right. And if it was me, I'd be putting the shortage label down here. So that it's actually on the axis. Well done. Very good. All right, another couple of seconds. These are the sorts of diagrams, and you're going to see a few of them. These are the sorts of models that, yeah, you're going to need to practice. And so it's going to need to be a case where you go back and have another go at it, and then a week or so later, I have another go at this one. So in your revision, what is always useful to do, yes, go through the work, go through the material, but practice drawing the models. Just have a pen and paper and just do a sketch diagram and check that you've got all of the elements in it, that you've got the labeling right, okay, the areas that are indicated. Yeah, again, and yeah, so Andrew, you'll just need to make sure you've got that shortage clearly indicated. I wouldn't put labels out here, Andrew, because yeah, it's going to get a bit confusing. I know it's obviously it's computer and all of that we're doing.
How do you like it?
It's the backwards word for live. Figure it out. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so just a few more to finish off. Excellent work, Sharaf. Well done. The only thing I would do in the future is just also have a label here. I know it's redundant because you've got the label there, but just from a safety sake, putting the label there on the actual price axis itself, right, is what the examiner is going to be looking for. And I'd try and avoid the whole arrows and identifying the areas, just as a tidiness thing. So you want to make it as clear as you can for the examiner. So whether that's coding it, so 1 and 2, or shading it and then having keys and all of those sorts of things, or actually as you've done, writing the words in. Right, that's fine too. All right. Well done. The only thing, Kendrick, is this arrow bit that you've got here. I would probably want to avoid that. Maybe putting the arrow down onto here, or putting the label, shortage label, down here on the axis. And similarly here, you'd want to put price ceiling or price max here, max price max, because it's the price axis. And then move that label from the middle over to this side over here. Otherwise, it's looking really good. And as I said, just work with the diagrams, just practice them, play with them. You can check them with each other to make sure you got them all right. You can email them to me. This is not the last time you're going to be doing these sorts of diagrams. They're fun. They're really good. And it's all geometric shapes. It's all working out the different areas. So what is the size of the shortage? You can work them out. You can be actual numbers. What is the area of the dead weight loss? That can be calculated and worked out. And the more you do economics, the more you will have to do those sorts of things. All right. Now, eventually, when you get to sort of university level, you're going to be dealing with supply and demand curves that are actually curved. So it requires a little bit more, potentially, requires a little bit more mathematical skill at that point to then be working out the areas, right? Not impossible, obviously, but a little bit more mathematical skill than what you need when you're doing this with geometric shapes that you have here. Very good. All right, so we're going to move on. Please do practice those diagrams. Make sure you know where all the areas are and that you can just turn the page over and, oh, I can do it again. All right, that's how we used to do it back in the day. You draw the diagram, turn the page over, draw the diagram on another page, compare the two, see if you've missed anything. Minimum prices. Hold on, where's my noise? Here it is. All right. Now, there is the opposite end, right? So you had a maximum price. Now the other one is the minimum price. So if I know, scary thought, I am actually the tallest person in my family. I know. All right, Fatima's laughing right now. I know, all right? So therefore, I am able to say I do have a mini mum, all right? But it's
funny, sir.
right. So now a minimum price is going to be kind of the opposite in a way. Instead of focusing on the consumers, now we're focusing on the producer side, the businesses. So we're now not concerned about whether the consumers are going to be able to afford the product. We're now worried that the market price is not a price that's going to give a decent revenue to our producers. So it might be that the product is essential for the economy. So here we are, we're in Malaysia, maybe palm oil, yeah? But in other parts of the world, it might be, say here, there's examples, agricultural markets, right? It might be New Zealand, the dairy industry, yeah? So it might be, excuse me, it might be that we need these minimum prices set in place so that the producers, they can actually earn a revenue and keep their business going, right? So what we do is we call it a minimum price. The other name for it is a price floor, with the idea being that the market can't go below the floor, right? Minimum, right, by law, okay? Now, how you do it is in the diagram, you're going to be drawing it above, right, the market price, right? So therefore, the price can't go below the floor, so it won't go to the equilibrium price, yeah? And what that's going to mean, as you're going to see, is that's going to lead to an excess of supply or a surplus. Now, that's pretty scary, right? And these are policies that actually are in place, and they're in place all around the world. And they've happened in history, and they're happening again now, right? And having a surplus of goods, particularly, look, agricultural ones, what do you do with them? All right. If you consider real-life examples, say the one I'm familiar with in New Zealand, the New Zealand government put a what's called a guaranteed minimum price on the price of wool, all right, from the sheep, okay? And what it meant was, it meant that there was a excess or a surplus of wool, large amounts of wool, okay, that we couldn't sell. So the government then guaranteed that price. So the government ended up, as a possible solution, ended up buying all of that surplus wool and holding on to it. Now, then the government ran out of room to store the wool because there's so much of it, and it's just ongoing because there's more sheep and more wool. So then the government said, okay, where are we going to put it? Well, the only place that they had that was big enough to put it was the public school system, because the government owned all the buildings. So yes, that's what they did. And I'm not kidding you, without word of a lie, the New Zealand government put whole big bales of wool into the gymnasiums and the assembly halls of schools in New Zealand and just filled them floor to ceiling. And then went to another school, fill it, floor, And then it was having to work out, okay, now that we've filled all the schools, what are we going to do? Okay. Well, as luck would have it, we were kind of saved a bit, because there was there are two situations. The first one, there was a country that shall remain nameless, Russia, and it ran out of money. All right, like absolutely ran out of money, right? Command economy, ran out of money. It couldn't pay its workers. Everybody was, right? And winter was coming, okay? It wasn't Game of Thrones, but winter was definitely coming. And as a result of that, a whole lot of people were going to die, okay? Because they didn't have food, they didn't have clothing, they were going to be cold, and winter was coming, and it was going to be the coldest winter apparently on record, these sorts of situations. So New Zealand, being the nice people that we were, I don't know that we still are, not sure, sent all of this wool over to Russia. And then the Russians turned them into clothes, and then they wore the clothes so that they could survive the winter. Amazing. Then, so that got rid of a whole lot of wool. Then we still had a whole lot of wool. So then another situation in the world occurred, and it was one of the biggest oil spills, right? The boat with oil in it hit something, tanker, hit something, and a whole lot of oil spilt out into the water. Now, obviously, environmental disaster and problem. But what the New Zealand scientists worked out was that wool floated. And so they bailed up all of this wool into like giant sausages, right? And it floated on the water, acting as like a natural barrier to the oil, because the oil floats as well. And then the wool absorbs the oil. So then they contained all this big oil spill with giant floating sausages of wool. And so the world community bought all of this wool, right, off of New Zealand, and we were able to get rid of it, just like that. Now, price floors are really serious. Now, you look at this one. We've used this example here, the EU, which doesn't mean, right, that it's something that you don't like, right? You've stepped in something that's nasty smelling. EU, no. In this case, thank you. In this case, right, we're talking about the European Union. Now, they have big subsidies there, and they also have had minimum prices for a lot of their agricultural products. And if you look at the textbooks in the past, at any rate, they will talk about things like a wine lake. So much wine in surplus that it was as if it was an entire lake full of wine. Okay. Another one that we would talk about in the economics textbooks was a butter mountain. They had so much butter stacked up that it was like it was a butter mountain. Right? These are the sorts of things that economics textbooks will refer to when they're talking about minimum prices as some of the consequences of them. The modern day economics, what countries do is if they build up these sorts of surpluses, is that they will end up doing what's called dumping them. They'll end up taking all of that surplus that can't be sold in a normal market, and they'll just go somewhere and go, oh yeah, you have it. Whatever you want to pay, you just pay it. All right? And it ends up causing really significant problems for those particular markets, which we'll deal with when you're in year 13, talking about international trade. This is what it looks like. There it is. There's the diagrammatic form of it. What fun! Here it is. Now, so as said, there's the minimum price line here. There it is, the price floor. All right, so labeling again, P min, price floor. We've got a solid line because it's the law. So therefore it is a solid line. All right, you can see the impact here. It starts there, hits the demand curve first this time. So because the price has risen, the law of demand, quantity declines. Quantity demand had started there, it's declined down to here. We go along here, there it hits the supply curve, incentive to produce. So therefore, quantity supplied increases to Q3. So this gap now between Q1 and Q3 is going to be a surplus or an excess of quantity supplied over quantity demanded. And again, you've got this impact here. There's consumer surplus. This case, consumer surplus they've taken it. The producers, look, producers were here. Sorry, here, producer surplus. Now, producer surplus, they've gained all of this from the consumers. Consumers have lost this, right? They've also lost this, and producers have lost this, but nobody has gained that. So that disappears into the ether, which I used to say a long time ago, all right? It disappears. It's nobody gets it, and it's classified, therefore, as we said before, as dead weight loss. Surpluses, welfare, whatever you like to call it, that isn't gained by someone else. It's just disappeared. And again, we've got that arrow, all right? The arrow pointing to where the market wants to go. The market wants to be allocatively efficient. It desperately is trying to get to here. The invisible hand is wanting it to move there. The government has intervened, and is causing this particular situation to occur. So it's like the market is being dragged away, kicking and screaming from where the equilibrium should be. So yes, it has created again another situation of allocative inefficiency, right? Or if you like, another situation where there is a misallocation of resources, both equally true. Also think about the idea of it from a context of equity, all right? Not only efficiency, but also equity. How fair is this? You know, what impact will it have on the actual producers themselves? What impact is it going to have on consumers? Right? If this is agricultural products, the price is going to go up. So you can guess what I'm going to ask you to do. Boop. You've got about 30 odd seconds. Have a go drawing the model. There you go. Do I have a sound effect for drawing the model? That's all right. Oh, good. You're getting the hang of it now. There, well done. Very good, Joel. Yeah, good work. Do make sure that you're noting down that it's an excess of supply or an excess of quantity supplied. It's the surplus in this case. Yeah, same idea, Max, is that the dead weight loss is going to cover that entire triangle. Yeah. Well, that's a big dead weight loss. Look at that. Good work. All right, so you got the consumer surplus up in here. All right, making sure that you illustrate down here that there is a surplus being created. Yeah, good win, Hal. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the whole arrows, right, with regards to that, but okay. So your consumer surplus, producer surplus in there. Excuse me. That's looking very good. Very good, Joel. Well done. Good work. Good. So you got labeling going on. Yeah. Again, yeah. Okay in this what we're doing now to do PF, but in the future, writing it out in full will be a better way to approach it, particularly for the examiner, so they can see it. Sure, keep going. Fantastic. Yep, yeah, and I would put the surplus label down here on the axis just to clean it up a little bit, but yes, good. Another diagram that you'll be able to practice. Excellent, well done, Andrew. Yep. Yeah, same idea here with the surplus illustration labeling. If we'd put that under the axis down in here, it just clears this space up in here. And that's more of a visual thing than anything else. All right, but it is a useful tool to be able to have. Yeah, a little bit messy when how, but you've got the right idea. Good work. Yep, good. Yep, yep, that's fine. That's good. Well done, Lisa. Yep, that's right. Well done, Dane. Good work. Very good. Make it a solid line, the minimum price, and make it go beyond the actual market. So it's like a solid line going all the way across the universe. Needs to be a solid line because it's the law, okay? But also you want it to be further than the market, right? Because if this curve shifts, then it's still affected by the minimum price. Another couple of seconds. Right, so you're all on the right path, so that's really good. All right, please do practice the diagrams. All right, particularly the more we go through, the more diagrams, models, analyses you're going to need to be able to do. So the more you practice them, the better your application skill, but also the better your understanding of the models in and of themselves. All right, so therefore, I'm going to move on. Now, here's another example. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll do. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. See you. All right, so you've got a minimum price again. This time, it's a slightly different one. We're going to put it in the labor market. All right, now the labor market is a market. It's a market for a factor of production. It's a market for the factor that we know, labor, right? And it's about people's wages. Now, we know this is as a minimum wage. It is a government intervention. It is a minimum price. Why would we put it in place? Well, we're going to put it in place because we believe that the market wage for that group of people, right, weaker members of society, right? Maybe they're unskilled, maybe it's low skill, maybe it's young people entering the labor market for the first time, any of those sorts of ideas, right? We might need to put this in place in order to give them a higher wage rate. Okay? And so if you've been watching the States at the moment, which is always a scary thing to do, you will notice that some states in America have actually increased their minimum wage, and they've increased it to $15 per hour. Now, if you translate that into Malaysian ringgit, right, what is it, times 4, something like that, that gives you an idea as to what the sort of number is that they're playing with. But $15 per hour, I mean, cost of living wise, if you were to compare, right, living, say, in New York, for example, right, or LA, California, $15 an hour is not going to get you particularly far. So this is one of the reasons why it's a really important conversation to be had. All right, it's one of the reasons why people like Bernie Sanders, etc., talk about it quite a lot. However, in economics, it's an intervention. It's the government saying the market doesn't work. So if this price is too low for labor, right, within a certain industry, perhaps, or certain occupations, or certain genders, or certain ethnic groups, or certain ages, or skill level, or experience, whatever it is, then maybe this price here is a better one. But what does that mean? Well, it means you end up, just as you did with a goods market, with a surplus, okay? Because the quantities that are demanded from labor are going to be less than they were. So they're going to demand less workers because workers are now more expensive. So that makes absolute sense. The supply of workers is actually going to increase because we see people saying to themselves, well, I didn't want to get a job before because it was, wages, heck, I might as well just sit at home and watch Oprah Winfrey. I don't know if Oprah Winfrey's even still on TV, right? And away they now go because they want a job now because it is now worth their while. However, right, the difference is going to be a surplus of workers. In other words, unemployment, surplus of labor, unemployment. So by putting this minimum wage in place, what the government does, according to economic theory, is it actually creates unemployment. Hold on. Which we don't want. Now, who is it who's being unemployed? It is the people who are unskilled. Young people entering the money. Yeah, it's all of the people we were trying to help in the first place. Right? Because, you look at this. Say this is a minimum wage. It's not going to affect the people at the top end of the labor market, the people who are earning the millions and millions of dollars. It's not going to affect them. It's not going to affect the doctors. It's not going to affect the chiropractors. It's not going to, I don't know why I mentioned the chiropractors. It's not going to affect any of the professional people who have skills and university degrees and so on and so forth. It is going to affect the low-skilled workers, the ones who are at the bottom end of the chain, plus all of the new people who decided to join, right? And they are in the labor market now as well. So you've gained a pool of people who are unemployed. Not necessarily the best thing. Minimum wage, will it benefit all within the labor market? Why and why not? Ready, set, go. About 30 seconds, have a go. Good. Well done. Good. And also you can be specific about who might actually benefit. Good work. Yes, doing well. Well done. Very well explained. Excellent. Yeah, okay. Yep, so yes, that's absolutely right for the minimum prices. And this one, we're talking about a minimum wage. So we're talking about what people are able to earn when they're in the labour force. In the labour force. Yeah, well done, Max, but maybe, you know, a little bit more depth. All right, moving on. Believe it or not, quite often we have minimum prices in an agricultural market, as we talked about there being potentially surpluses created because of minimum prices, right? So it might be a surplus of grain, for example, right? So the government therefore might need to buy that, as we said, right? And therefore other costs on top of this might be administration costs, storage costs, transport costs, and as mentioned already, wine lakes, beef mountains, butter mountains, grain heaps, and maybe they just burn or dump the stock. Now, the situation that we're in at the moment, there's been a lot of surpluses created, particularly in America, because they're subsidizing the farmers, the agricultural industry, but there's also been considerably less demand, and there's also been a whole lot of less workers able to work in the field. So they've actually been, you know, burning, dumping, driving the tractors over there, you know, ploughing it all back into the ground because they haven't been able to sell it. They haven't even been able to pick it necessarily. Right, very controversial. Now, the other thing to note, and this is going to have an impact when you're in year 13, is that if we're considering agricultural markets, then quite often we can add in a connection to what's called development economics. So we can do what's called synergistic thinking, right? So we can make the leap from this idea to the discussion about developing or growing economies, and how for a number of economies, agricultural markets and the agricultural industry is their main industry. So therefore, they are affected by this possibly more than some other countries would be. Right? So you can then discuss international trade and equity issues, trading agreements, all of those sorts of things. All right. Now, this is an extra bit just to throw in there, just so that you've got this as a new term as well. There's something called a buffer stock scheme. Now, this idea is to try and support the price, right, of the product. Okay, so usually agricultural. Okay, but what they're doing is they are trying to, this particular agricultural product, sometimes the price gets too high and sometimes the price is too low. So they want to try and support it at both sides. They want to try and keep it so that it's not what's called volatile. It doesn't all the time. So they have what's called a buffer stock scheme, right? So they're going to have an impact on the top, like all right, price floor, and then they're going to have a support at the bottom, like a minimum price, so maximum price, in order to prevent it from, you know, doing too extreme a change in price. All right, so it's called a buffer stock scheme, and it is to safeguard, right, to protect that industry. You don't want the dramatic price changes up or down, right? Now, this is an agreement typically done by the suppliers and the government, and they manage it themselves. Right? So in case you, hello.
Hi, Mr. David. So governments will basically set up a scheme that if there's a surplus in quantity, they will buy that surplus.
Yes.
But if what happens if there's a shortage? Like, do they also help?
Yes, they will subsidize the production of.
Okay.
Or they might have stock that they have in surplus in their warehouse and then release it.
Okay.
Classic cases with that might be, if you consider like the oil market, a number of countries have, like America has, stockpiles of oil that they have there as a buffer stock. Right? They've got it sitting there. They've bought it off of the market to keep the price high, and they keep it, and then when there is a shortage, they pump it back into the market.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So either that, or they basically like pay producers to.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The paying producers one can cost an awful lot of money.
All right. Thanks.
We were looking at one the other day, and it was in America, and obviously at the moment everything's all crazy, but they were paying some farmers up to 40% of the actual total cost of the production, right, for their product as a subsidy. And because they were also getting other subsidies as well, then the amount was just phenomenal, and it was a huge amount of money, absolutely enormous. Now, in the slides themselves, there are some reviews. Remember the context, that it's all about efficiency. It's about the efficient allocation of resources. It's about our understanding that the market model is supposed to be the most efficient method of the allocation of resources. And if the government tries to interfere with that, then it's going to throw that system off. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we need to do is we need to do this, which means we leave that. All right. And then I'm going to open the new Nearpod 2. And I'll give you the code for that. Where is it? This one. All right, the code will be appearing very soon. It is, here it is, GK3SQ. GK3SQ. I haven't tried this button that says make it a Zoom meeting. I don't know what that means. GK3SQ. I'll have to try that. I'll post it to the classroom as well, just in case that we're not sure. And we need to go back and look for it. Announcement. Nearpod. Right, we'll do a little bit of this today, and then we will move on and do the rest another day. Right, GK3SQ. Right, so we should be arriving in here. We are. That's fantastic to see. Now, new subunit connected to the other subunit. All right, about efficiency and about the market model. This one is elasticity. Elasticity, one of the most fun words to say in all of economics. Elasticity. All right, and we've hinted at this before, and some of the things that we've talked about before, and things that are going to go forward are going to relate to this as well, all the way through into year 13. So it is a topic that will be really quite vital as we continue on in our learning journey. I've got 15 in there so far. 16, there we go. Now, first thing is to understand what elasticity is. Well, in the short version, I mean, you can do your dictionary searches and all of those sorts of things, all right? But the shortest version of what elasticity is responsiveness, which is a very complicated word as it sounds, but it's actually quite a straightforward one. All right, responsiveness. What you are going to be looking at principally, the very first ones that we're going to be looking at, because it's the market model, we're going to be thinking about demand and supply. So you're going to be looking at elasticity related to demand and elasticity related to supply, specifically price. So you're going to be looking at price elasticity of demand, or PED, and you're going to be looking at price elasticity of supply, or PES. Those are the two halves that we're going to be looking at, all right? And these are the things that are involved with that, all right? Including looking at this one, which is going to be called income elasticity of demand, as a part of this idea about elasticity of demand, all right? And that's going to have a code YED, okay? The reason being it can't be IED, right? Because that's quite clearly improvised explosive device, and we don't want that. No. Because in economics, hold on. In economics, we're going to use the letter I for other things. So we don't want to use it for this, right? So the code is going to be Y, and in economics, we're going to use the code Y for income. Why? Because why not? All right? You can think of it in the context of your income or yearly income, whatever works for you. Now we're going to get to definitions. Don't panic. I'm just going to go past them for a second. All right, there is a lovely wee mind map in the slides as well that you can look through. Now, price elasticity of demand, because we tend to always start with demand because it's you, it's the consumer. Oh, we got 16 in today. Where's the rest of you gone? No, maybe they're there. No. Oh, no, that's 16. That's fine. Sorry, I keep thinking about my year 11s. All right, here we go. PED, the code, price elasticity of demand. It is a measure of how much the quantity demanded for a product changes when there's a change in the price of a product. So we know the law of demand. We know that when the price increases, the quantity demanded decreases. But what we don't know is by how much it decreases. We don't know how big a responsive change there is. All right. So then we need to know this. This is the formula to calculate it. A little bit of maths. All right. So here we go. PED equals the percentage change in the quantity demanded of the product, all divided by the percentage change in the price of the product. Now, what we can see, all right, is this here tells us, all right, something quite significant. You've got quantity demanded over price. Now, most people, because we teach this and we go the left axis is price and the right axis or the horizontal axis is quantity, the big trap for young players is to do price and quantity, right? Price over quantity, but that's not how it works, yeah? It is the percentage change in the quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in the price. Now, you aren't going to be given a formula sheet when you take your exams. You're not. They're not necessarily, I don't think so, because it's obviously a new syllabus and everything's up for change, but they shouldn't put the actual formula in the actual question itself. So you are going to need to just know this, all right? That's me poking it there, all right? You need to know this equation. Now, in New Zealand, because the trap was that learners will get the price and quantity around the wrong way, it comes out with the wrong number, okay? So what we would say in New Zealand is that the way to remember that quantity is here is to remember that the queen is always higher than the princess. All right, so Q is always above P. That would be a shorthand code for remembering why it is. So it's all about responsiveness. So PED is about responsiveness or quantity demanded to a change in price. What does PED measure? You've got about 30 seconds starting now. Good. Good, good putting the formula in. Yeah, we got the right idea. We seem to be all talking about demand as opposed to quantity demanded, but that's okay. All right. Now, so that you are all, I'm going to stop sharing now. No, I'm not. I'm going to do one more thing. All right, we're moving on. Passing that. All right, so responsiveness. This is just the last thing I want to just go through very quickly, what responsiveness is all about. All right, now you're all scientists, you're all people of the world, you are very familiar with the idea of responsiveness as it relates to you and as it relates to the world around you. So I've got some examples here, and in the slides, this one and this one are actually videos, all right? This one here is a guy bungee jumping. He's got a bungee rope and an elastic band tied around his ankles. Some of you may have done that, all right? And he's jumping off a tall tower and he's going to bungee jump, right? He's going to bounce all right, back up. And apparently that's enjoyable. It doesn't sound enjoyable to me. It is a very New Zealand thing to do. We invented the sport, believe it or not. And I say invented, we stole it from some African people who were doing it as a fertility ritual. Anyway, long story. So we also have horizontal bungees in New Zealand. We have vertical bungees. There's a whole range of different activities that you can do. So if you are a tourist in New Zealand, and obviously not at the moment, you could possibly enjoy that as an activity if that floats your boat. There's an old expression. So bungee jump, you've got an elastic band. So that you would consider to be very responsive. It stretches. It allows for the movement. Other things here, you've got steel bars. Now, steel bars are not very responsive. Steel chains, if you did a bungee jump with a steel chain tied around your ankles, it's going to be a very different reaction, a very different set of responses, right, to if it's a proper elastic band. When you go walking on the sand, you see how the sand responds to the weight of you walking on the sand. And you would expect there to be you to leave quite an impression on the sand, all right? Very responsive. So we're going to be talking about responses that are very elastic and other responses that are very inelastic. Yes, this is a Muay Thai boxer who is bending a steel pole by kicking the thing with their shin. That's very impressive. And we were in Thailand and we used to see similar things happening. Right, I'm going to do the stop sharing. I'm going to jump back to the meat. Where is the meat? Here it is. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, that's been a long one today. We're going to keep going. We're going to do some reviewing, please. All right, so your tasks, review the theories, maximum, minimum prices, can you do the diagrams, etc. I'm going to be posting some things, not today, tomorrow. Yes, all right, that are going to push you into the InThinking IB site. So you'll need to make sure that you can access that. And if you're having problems accessing that, please let me know, all right? Because we've paid for the membership to it and it is a very good site. So yeah, so review that concept. Yes, Wednesday, do I see you Wednesday? I think I do. Wednesday is a day when you are going to be given activity, you're going to be given the activities, which are, well, there's going to be two that are going to arrive. One is the InThink IB site, and the other one is a worksheet. Do I see you tomorrow as well? No. What day is tomorrow? Tomorrow is Wednesday. So I see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Okay. So tomorrow is when you're going to get these two activities, and it's going to be InThink IB site, and it's going to be a worksheet that will appear in the classroom. And the worksheet will be one that you're going to want, you're going to keep it and you're going to work on it over time, because some of the information in it you're going to be able to answer now, other information in it you're not going to be able to answer at this point in time. And I'll explain that, okay, better than I have right now. But the InThinking IB one is going to be quite important, okay, to have a crack at. Now tomorrow evening or afternoon into the early evening at any rate is the Parent-Teacher Learner Conference. All right, so that means that my class in the afternoon, which is it you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is you guys. That's when that work is going to be set. So there's not going to be an actual class as such. It's going to be work set for you, because that's the trade-off with the Parent-Teacher Conference. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you know how the parent-teacher conferences work?
Yes.
Do they send do they send a link to our parents, and because do we join?
Yes.
Okay, because
I don't know how you find out about it, but it goes to your parents, I believe.
All right.
And in fact, I think I have one from your parents as well. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, because my parents booked during class time.
Yes.
Yeah. Are we expected to go if it's during class time? Or?
I'm going. I'm
Yeah,
leaving class.
Yeah, you tend to go with them to the appointments. Yes.
So even if we have econs that time, like we just go. We just
Yes.
don't. All
Yeah.
right.
I'm putting work. The work will just arrive. Right. When you do it, it's up to you. Yeah. And as I said, one of the worksheets you're going to need to work on over time. You're not going to be able to just instantly do it. All right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so tomorrow work will be pushed into the classroom for you to work on. All right. We will have the parent-teacher conference. The parent-teacher conferences, as you know what they're about. They're about your pathway exam, where you're at, and if your mum and dad want to converse about HLSL, then we can do that at that point too. But that HLSL conversation needs to be the 3 and 3, okay? And a lot of that 3 and 3 conversation needs to be between you, Miss Amanda, Miss Sarah, about universities and what you're thinking about and entries and all of those sorts of things. It is possible to change from an SL to an HL in economics as you go through. It just means you need to catch up the work. Yeah. So if you make an SL decision now, please don't panic and then later on think, oh, I'm never going to be able to do HL now. Yeah. You can still pick up HL later and just add to your workload, but it's possible. Yeah. And we've got one year 13 doing it this year who dropped out of HL to do SL and is now rapidly picking up, trying to pick up the HL material. All right. But yeah, if mum and dad want to talk to me about that, then that's happy to. Yeah. But I'm not going to have the answer specifically for you because, as said, it's that 3 and 3 idea. Yeah, I can give a recommendation based on what I think you're capable of. But as I've said to you before, is that a lot of it needs to be what you need. And if you need the 3 and 3 and you need economics to be HL, then that's what we'll put you in. It's just how it works. It has to be. Yeah. You need to get whatever is best for you. Right? And so for some, they need the sciences because they're looking at going into medicine or architecture or whatever. All right. And so therefore, they're going to need to do HL in the sciences and the maths and I don't know, whatever else. Yeah. So, yeah, but we'll talk about that. So tomorrow, all right, it'll be a very quick, there'll be a push through the classroom for your work, and I'll just be expecting that you do that at some point between then and I see you then on the Friday morning. So as long as you've had a go at the very least at the in thinking work between tomorrow and Friday, that's all I will expect. All right. Otherwise, as we'd say in the land of my birth, he konera, which means goodbye for now.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David.
Thank you. Bye.
See you.
Wow.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Mr. David, I have a question about price floors.
About
The minimum wage and price
Yes.
floors.
Yes.
There was this little like square that was saying like, you know, this surplus loss with like people who can't find jobs. Does that also occur like with price ceilings that the consumer surplus decreases because they can't find the product they want to buy? Like that little pink area.
That's a really good analytical point. And the answer to the question is it depends, which doesn't really help you much at all.
But it can happen?
Yeah, I would say yes, absolutely. And that would be an analytical point that you would add, right? And you would discuss that, yes. And remember, we are now in the age of effectively writing mini essays to all of your work. So, yeah, the more analytical you can be, and the more critical even of the theory you can be, that's what we're after. Yeah, the more synergy you can link to other topics within the course. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. See you.